All right, fellas. I want to call the town council meeting to order for Tuesday, May 5th. First order of business is to pledge to the flag. We do that every time. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Melody, could you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Carlton Kay.
Present.
Connie Reed.
Here.
Stephanie. Ron Hill.
Here.
Scott Glover.
Here.
All right. Next is the approval of the minutes of February 6, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve those?
I'll make the motion. And I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are now on record. Normally, the next thing would be any public comments or a public hearing, but I'm going to move up this. Y'all get to go first, so that, because they're not going to sit still for all this. So, we are here, and what this is Colonel's basketball, and they had a really awesome season this year. They just did. And anybody that was there when I was there knows what I yelled. I always yell, "That's my baby," at one of those players. So I want to present this plaque to show that we are really, really proud of you boys and what you did. So they were the 2023 Impact regular season champions. They went 11-1. They were the 2023-2024 Impact tournament champions. They were the 2023-2024 TMSAA Area 14 basketball champions. So they did great, and I'm really, really proud of y'all fellas. So, I don't know. You're welcome. But, Jordan, I probably want to take a picture.
Right there. Pick up permanently there. Hold it up.
And smile. I'll get it over.
Right here.
Yeah, there you go. It's beautiful. Awesome job, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job, y'all.
We'll go ahead. We don't have anybody to speak on the public, finance sheet. First thing is a public hearing. Yeah. Okay, now. We'll do a public hearing, close the council meeting and open the public hearing before the second and final reading of an ordinance to repeal and replace Article 6 provisions governing planned unit development districts in its entirety, and to repeal and replace any ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith. Do we have anybody wishing to speak at this public hearing? Okay, nobody wants to speak. Public hearing is closed. I'm reopening the council meeting. We've already recognized William James. Safety Action Plan public meeting Thursday, March 21st, 2024 from 6 to 8 at the Bill White Bluff Civic Center. What is that?
That is we're in the midst of a safety action plan. The purpose of it is the safety action plan is now a prerequisite to any future TDOT transportation type grants that we want to apply for. So we're in the midst of that plan right now, and part of that, similar to the recent comprehensive plan that we worked on, part of that is public engagement, and so there will be a public meeting at the Civic Center on March 21st from 6 to 8 for anyone to come down and talk about anything transportation related.
Like what they want to
Dangerous intersections, speed limits, anything transportation, sidewalks, biking, anything like that.
Okay. All right. Next is under Budget and Finance, reviewing the January financial statement. Does anybody have any, I know it was talked about.
Yeah. The ones that went here, I just wanted to just a couple of things on, remember this is just this January, but I think on the property tax, we're gonna be over 500,000, those people pay in February, and, so, I feel good that we're gonna be probably about 510,000 on that. We're still over budgeted, but still, it's a lot more than the 372 for roll forward. And then a local option sales tax, I don't think we're gonna make the 927 that was budgeted, but we did get real good checks this month. It was 81,000 or something like that. Rest of it is pretty, if you just look along what says % of the budget, it's, we're doing good so far on everything. And then on the expenditures, I'm keeping a close eye on the Parks and Recreation, because we, upgraded, Field of Dreams. That's where some of that, and that has to be done if somebody gets hurt or whatever. So right now we're looking good on everything.
Anybody have any questions about the financial
Stephanie,
statement?
I don't know, I told them at the work session, I've been trying, I include this I know you asked to see it, I've been,
Okay.
well, state investment pool, I also include that every time too.
Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, we'll move on to codes and permits now. Consider on second and final reading an ordinance to repeal and replace Article 6, provisions governing planned unit development districts in its entirety, and to repeal and replace any ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith. This was passed on first reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, are there any questions?
Could you guys go back over again to number 2 on the front page of the ordinance?
Providing flexibility in architectural design line?
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking about document number 3, the ordinance number,
Oh, sorry.
number 2, and I apologize, I wasn't at the work session, so we probably already discussed this.
Allow staff to make non-substantive changes, is that the one?
Yes.
So particularly from the first reading to the second, Amanda had labeled all of those as chapters.
Okay.
She's gone back now and actually incorporated the right sequence numbers with our zoning ordinance. So it's just saying that should we find anything like that in the future where we missed something or had a blank or we needed to put a section, that we can do that after you guys pass. Non-substantive, it wouldn't be anything that would change anything.
It's mostly, we did that with the landscaping ordinance, it had to refer to external tables, and I think it said throughout XYZ table.
Right.
We waited until it was
Yeah.
passed to add that in, but it doesn't change what the words mean.
Gotcha.
Any more questions about that?
This is as you saw it on first reading and on Thursday, so no changes from us.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Ordinance is changed and passed.
Thank you, Lord.
Discuss amending a resolution of the Town of White Bluff, Tennessee to add notice requirements to zoning and rezoning requests regarding signage.
And Madam Chair, I'll jump in here real quick. I know this was Councilman Glover's issue he wanted on the agenda. The county is going through this process as well. I think there was some desire to track that a little bit. Keep in mind, the HUD change that you just passed and is now law has those to a certain extent in the neighborhood meetings. It does not have the formal send-out notice to everybody for an annexation or rezoning. I think that's kind of what's being discussed. On Thursday, we talked about the draft that the County Planning Commission will be looking at next Thursday at their Planning Commission meeting, requiring the developer to notify every adjoining parcel owner to an annexation or rezoning. So that's out there at the county level, and Councilman Glover, I didn't know if you found out more or had more thoughts on that.
My thoughts are I want to put this on the back burner until the county made their decision and see completely what changes are made.
And once they pass, I can certainly bring that passed version down to y'all to look at as a template, and we can adapt it. Obviously, the county doesn't give notice for annexations because they don't annex, and we would probably, I would suggest, if you're going to do it for rezonings, might as well do it for annexations as well. So.
That and revisit the sign as far as information on the sign that's put in on the property, the amount of signs, whether it's a two-sided sign, and what all information is included in that sign. And, various reasons for the sign.
Councilman, if that's your motion, the chair will allow you to make that motion to table it until the county acts, would be my suggestion.
Okay. Yes, I would like to table the motion until the decision is finalized at the county level.
All right, I have a motion to table this until we get something to show what the county's doing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any more questions about that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it is tabled for the moment. Next, we're discussing requiring sprinkler systems for any construction involving shared walls. Was there something else on this?
No, I'll kind of give kind of the parameters from Thursday that I think Jeff and I were asking for. You know, we don't have an ordinance for you to look at. We need direction. So shared wall, I think, was a big discussion. Multifamily versus other being a discussion, and whether or not, looking at what Cheatham County does, the issue about the water line. The county exempts where they say you have to have a sprinkler system. They exempt if you don't have a water line that meets that. I know Councilman Kincaid, you brought up the tank. So I think knowing where y'all are on a couple of those issues, we could at least get a draft kind of flowing. Again, if it is the will of this body to proceed with this, it will take us a couple of months to kind of work through all of the different codes to make sure we're not in conflict and bring something back to you. But luckily, it's been done by a neighboring jurisdiction. They've been sharing things they've passed with us, so we're not going to be starting from scratch, which is a good thing. So I just wanted to frame the conversation.
So if you don't mind if I started, since I've kind of been at the spearhead, I guess, on this in some regards. So we had that wonderful demonstration from our fire department. Our chief called down Pleasant View, and they brought down a trailer. I actually have that video footage. If y'all would like to see it or me share it, I'd be happy to do that. He had a wonderful explanation before we did the demonstration on a lot of myths and I don't know if you what are the word I'm grasping here, but basically misconceptions is the word I'm looking for about sprinkler systems and how to avert those. So I would like to the best of my memory, bring some of those up to try to help the conversation, because I know that we actually talked about some of those things he brought up at the demonstration. So first and foremost, price-wise, now they were specifically talking about residential systems. Price-wise, you're looking at about $1.50 per square. So it's definitely something that can be absorbed. I was wanting to start at the shared wall. I'm not necessarily opposed to us in the future looking at single family, but I'd at least like to start in the shared wall and see how we go. The good news is that Pleasant View does have the data over the last 20 years, because when they first instituted it, they had no data on the pros, cons, pitfalls, all the things that are going to come. Now, 20 years later, they do have all that data. That is, they were passionately wanting to make available to us, because they're in favor of it. And obviously, Cheatham County has adopted a lot of those things as well. They also offer to bring a secondary demonstration if we would so desire. They have another one that is compare and contrast on what a fire can do in 8 minutes versus when you have a sprinkler system, because 8 minutes is the national response average of a fire department. But handling a couple of the myths and misconceptions that come with those sprinkler systems, I was happy to learn that they actually make recessed sprinkler systems that you can't even tell are there, so that you don't have to have the big commercial-looking systems. Like I said, they do not freeze for the most part, so long as they're installed correctly. He said that the only instances they had where there was freezing was when all the other pipes were freezing too, so it just kind of came along with it. They had learned a lot of different things. For an example, like with the garage, one of the issues they had run into at one point was the system in the garage was freezing, but once they discovered if you put the system on the shared interior wall, that you didn't have those issues again, because it was insulated properly and you were receiving the heat from that. So they've learned a lot of those things, I think, that we could copy and paste into our walls. But just the level of it being able to save a life, I think it would aid our fire department and the response and what can be done to save that property. Another myth was that, and forgive me if I'm being sporadic, I'm just trying to remember all the things he said during that demonstration. Unlike Hollywood, if you get one, like you put up a lighter to a system, only that one sprinkler goes off, not all of them. So it's not going to just ruin your whole property if you have an instance. The $1.50 per square foot was the number. I know that Cheatham County had made it to where you have to have access to water, because that is a concern. But in order to overcome that, there is a tank system available that can run that sprinkler system for 10 minutes. So let's say we are building a couple of plexes down Taylortown Road and the plumbing, the infrastructure doesn't go out there, that would be able to give that pressure. Per build, you're looking at a $2,500 expense to install the tank. And it's put in the crawl space, not a big deal. And then there you go, now you've sprinkled the duplex and you're good to go. So I think that is definitely worth looking at. So I think at the time, maybe when Cheatham had passed that, maybe, I don't know if they didn't look at the tank systems or whatever, I don't know where that perspective was on, maybe it wasn't available, but I think the tank system at $2,500 is not that big of a deal to be able to run your sprinkler system for 10 minutes. So yeah, I mean, I think all in all, I think overall it's just going to be a good thing personally. My 2 cents is that it's going to make the community safer. It's going to assist our fire department, especially in those areas where we're having difficulty with fire hydrants, because obviously we know in White Bluff that's an issue. So personally, I just don't see a downside. Oh, the inspection, that was another concern, was the inspection of, because Roy was also at the demonstration as well. What was very strongly recommended as far as inspection, in order to make sure that the pipe systems don't freeze and that they work correctly, et cetera, was to have them inspected upon the build and get signed off on. And they highly encouraged us to get a paid staff member from our fire department to get that certification and then be the ones to sign off on it. Now, once that is done and the chief or whoever it is for White Bluff goes out there and signs off on that build, we're done. The system belongs to the owner. It is not White Bluff's obligation anymore in residential systems. So, and he said for the ones that he has, everything over in Pleasant View that he has personally signed off on, they haven't had any issues. And so it's the only increased cost to the town would be for that paid fire chief or whoever to get certified to do that. And for his, of course, labor to go out there and sign off on new builds.
Yeah, just to clarify, the standard is to inspect at that stage, because it's not commercial or industrial, there would not be any re-inspection by the town. There's a bandwidth issue there of going out, but it's just you do it at the building and then it's up to the homeowner to maintain the system.
Did I miss anything?
On the ones that we do now, on the commercial, who does the initial inspection then?
I don't know.
Nobody signs off on it?
Unless it's like an education school, somebody that the state does it, the state fire marshal's office does it, but like Nashville Wire, no, there's nobody, they're responsible for it.
Well, no, I know after the fact, but I meant the initial, when they put it in.
No, Nashville Wire was built back in the, '60s, and it's sprinkled.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you.
Civic Center is sprinkled, and it's not been inspected since.
Right, I was just wondering if we had any recently that had just been built that,
If there were, it has to check that box.
Yeah.
They're not going to get a CO
okay.
without having that in there, but we haven't done it before.
What about-
They're installed by a sprinkler company that's licensed and certified to do that, and then it just falls under the purview of the building inspector to make sure it's installed like it's supposed to be.
So basically, our fire chief would have to just need to get certified to do the initial inspection and sign off.
So what's happened with our newly built restaurants, because commercial kitchens have to have sprinkler systems installed in them? Is Roy inspecting those?
They just have the hood systems over the grills, and I do have to go, when they do the inspections, or they actually have to test the system, I go to those and they test the systems.
Yeah, again, Roy is checking, making sure it's there.
Yeah.
What's going on beyond that, we have to ask Roy. And if the fire chief is there, making sure during the...
I was waiting. You waiting on me?
I was so waiting on you.
I did some digging, all right, so I did talk to the water authority. I did talk to the city of Dixon, and I did talk to another installer. And so how confident are you on your install price?
What was the company that we had out there?
I couldn't tell you the name of the company that was there.
So, we had a company out there, you remember the company, but we had a company out
Well,
there, and they were like $5.
Okay, the reason I ask you is because Tennessee Kentucky Fire, which is the first people I talked to, said around $2 a foot, which is comparable to what you're saying. So, but then the other company I talked to said the last residential system they did in November 2023 was $4 a foot. But if that was in Williamson County, then it's going to be $4 a foot. So, the water authority says that we can, as long as it passes the pressure test, we can tie it into a 1 meter, feed the house, feed the sprinkler system. The only issue that I have with that it's a good thing because you're gonna have 1 meter, okay, and you're gonna have your water supply at your house, and then you're gonna have another line that branches off with a valve and a backflow preventer. Because that stagnant water will sit in that sprinkler system, and if we lose water pressure for the city, all that nasty water runs back into your system if your backflow's not there. The problem I have with that, I like that because if a homeowner doesn't want the sprinkler system, once you buy the house, it's your baby. If you want to valve that off, you can, because it's there, you can do that. The problem with that is, if the backflow fails, because most times, if I'm not mistaken, residential backflows aren't checked like they are, say, in the school system. If that fails, the city loses water pressure, all that stagnant water runs back. So I think we need to consider, you know,
What if we do up to the over?
yeah, because I don't think you're gonna be able to require a homeowner to have their backflow checked. I think that's overstepping. But if you don't do that, and you're looking at 2 meters, which increases your cost by probably another $2,500 if you have a separate meter for, but you're still gonna have a backflow, I'm assuming, because if not, it's gonna flow back through that meter, so it's not gonna matter. I don't argue that it saves lives, I don't.
Is there a more superior backflow valve or something that?
I mean,
I didn't know to ask that question at that demonstration.
That's probably an install guy.
He said that they quit using backflow preventers, they use a check valve.
So that would fix that problem.
Yeah.
And I also said too, with the backflow preventers, anything in Dixon County, if you have over a certain size line, you have to have backflow preventers. And the water authority, they come out and inspect those once a year. Because we have one in the fire department, they come and inspect.
Right, well, they do for the school system too. I'm hesitant to do anything that's going to require somebody to come to a homeowner's house and inspect anything, because I think it steps on property owner's rights. But the check valve would fix that, and I think that would be applicable in that size water line. City of Dixon does not require it. I asked them, I said, do y'all require it in shared wall developments? And they said no. I'm not sure why, other than, you know, there's probably a big push from builders like me that we don't want it. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, because even at $2 a foot, you build a 1,200 square foot home. I mean, it's $2,400. I mean, it's not gonna matter. I mean, it's gonna get washed up in the price of the home or whatever.
And even if you have to put in a tank system at $2,500, be testing they could say free. At that point, you're into it $5 grand.
Well, the water authority told me, he said, you know, don't quote me, you know, on the record. He said, but more than likely, if you've got a 2-inch water line, it'll handle it. Because, I mean, that system's not running all the time, and if you have a fire, more than likely, nothing else in the house is gonna run, so it's probably gonna be fine. My question too to you is, you know, I'm kinda on the fence. I'm more leaning your side than the other, because like I say, $2,500, even $3,000 on a house, you know, it's not gonna really matter. How would you feel about maybe not going with, avoiding single family, avoiding duplex, and just going townhome, like 3 or 4 shared units or more? Like, if you got a duplex, don't require it, but if you've got, you know, townhomes, which is more than 2, is that something you would, as far as
I'm
your
not
vote?
opposed, I just want to say logically consistent. So what separates in your brain, because I would like to hear where your brain's going here. If you're building a 3-plex versus a duplex, or a triplex, I guess would be, duplex versus triplex, what difference,
Well, and I mean,
why are you
obviously,
saying not duplex and yes to
a lot
triplex?
of my constituents are builders or, you know, in real estate, and its cost, because, you know, and I know people's like, well, you know, what's a life worth? I agree with that. But, you know, it's easier to absorb, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 a unit when you're building 3 or 4 than it is if you're building 2. The one thing that really bothers me more than anything is I'm really a fan, just like what Scott did, table the signage until we see what the county's going to do. For a builder, it's so much easier if we all kind of follow suit. I don't like that the city of Dixon doesn't require it, as big as they are. I'm curious as to why they didn't feel that was necessary, and I'm going to dig some more into that. But you know, I like to follow suit. You know, whatever the county and the city of Dixon's doing, I like for us to do that way. When you're a builder, you're not. You know, I build here and it's this, I build there and it's that, and it's confusion.
I agree with that in most aspects, but then there are times that sometimes you just gotta have a spearhead thing, and maybe the county follows up. So we don't always have to follow county, even though it is much more convenient, and I would agree in a lot of cases, I would say it's seamless. But having seen what Cheatham's done, we might just simply be the first to go on and pull it on this way.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a real fan of Cheatham's way of looking at things, because, you know, you can, and not to be, you know, blunt, but I am blunt, but, you know, if you're anti-growth, the way to get that is to just keep throwing these restrictions and restrictions and restrictions until you don't want to build there. And so I don't want to do that because that's not my cup of tea. But I'm not opposed to doing something like I say, I'm selling the house for $300,000, it's either going to get swallowed up in my cost or I'm going to pass it along to the buyer.
Well, like I said, because on one hand, you're saying, well, $3,000, $5,000 isn't that huge of a deal. Well, if you're building a duplex, you're still going to sell
Well,
those things.
here's where, and it's not going to make a huge deal, don't get me wrong, but as a bill, like a house that I'm going to sell, okay, so I'm not going to care. I'm at $3,000 less profit I make, or I pass it along to the buyer. The duplex, more than likely, I'm going to keep, and so that's a rental unit, which means I've got to keep my rental amounts. You know, they coincide with my payment. And so what's going to happen with our rent being already through the roof anyway, I hate to add anything to a small rental unit, because you're going to force those rent prices up. Because I'm going to get my $3,000 back. It's not a huge deal, but it does add to your rent amount.
Well, yeah, because I mean, what's $3,000 spread over an amortized loan?
You know, that's exactly right. I mean,
Not
it's not
that
a
much.
huge deal.
And so, because I agree, but I was seeing it as killing multiple birds with one stone here, because we admittedly, our fire department is stretched thin because of the capacity of our town. That's no insult in any way, shape, or fashion, but when you're running volunteers, there's just challenges. Then we've already had so that's one, then we've already had the fire hydrant issue, especially on roads that have deficiencies.
Right.
So if you have a tanked system down a road that has a fire hydrant deficiency, that's a huge blessing if something happens. And then, thirdly, it's like I said, force the savings alive. I'm trying to diminish that or anything, but I also am very hesitant because I've seen people use that logic to try to justify anything.
Exactly. Yes.
So I'm not trying to go that, but it is a variable. And so yeah, and then yes, admittedly, I don't mind saying this. I don't mind raising the price a little bit, both on rent and cost, because again, I don't want to nickel and dime somebody to death, but I also would prefer to have the people that are building in White Bluff have to bring a premier product. And so somebody who's coming in is going, no, I'm going to build a great product anyways. I don't mind absorbing $3,000 because of the product I'm building. That's no big deal. Cool, I want you here. But somebody who's trying to nickel and dime us and bring the cheapest thing possible, I don't necessarily want that builder in White Bluff.
Right. I understand that. I do.
So all of those stones are reasons that I'm going, okay, these are great ideas.
Well, and Eric fixed my one issue with the check valve, because that will cure that problem. I don't want that to happen, because those backflows do fail. It's not every day, but over a period of time, they will. The check valve, probably not. So,
So my direction, and I would just like to see if y'all would be in agreement, because they're asking for direction, would be because I don't think we don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. Let's start at what Cheatham County, maybe Pleasant View, has already started on their legal aspect. See if we can frame something and tailor it and make it White Bluffs.
Well, and that'll give me, one thing I would like to do, and I'm going to do, I want to go see the people at the City of Dixon and be like, okay, guys, you tell me why you don't have this, because I am curious. With such a large city and so many townhomes probably coming there and have come there, I would like to know, and they may just say this is just not something we've looked into, and that's fine, that's an answer.
And if that's the answer, hopefully maybe if we spearhead it, then we can maybe, as they have done to us, pass off our legislation, and maybe they will pass it as well.
Right.
That's the hope. I run my mouth.
Me too.
What do you think? I know Scott was here Thursday. Stephanie, Connie, what do you think?
What you should initially, you should not to look at residential just yet, just single-family homes, right?
Right.
And I'm not single family. I'm not saying that we won't go there, because who knows, if we pass this law on the shared wall and we love it and it doesn't cause any problems with builders and it's a win-win-win-win-win everywhere, okay, cool, then let's revisit it and maybe pass a single family. But I was just thinking this would be a good place to start.
Well, and I'll tell y'all, like I say all the time to Janet, if the builders want to speak against it, they definitely need to show up, and if they don't, I'm going to assume they're good with it, and if they are, then I am, and let's go. As far as me, I don't have an issue with it. As far as being a builder, it doesn't upset me. So.
And again, it'll be a few months before we have a draft for y'all. It's an ordinance, so you're going to have 2 readings. So, you'll have plenty of time to do additional research. It's just, do you want us working on this or not? That's really, and if y'all want to think on it more, you just defer this to next month. I mean, we just need a little bit of direction.
I would prefer to start working on it personally. And I also relish the idea that if he gets a call, if there's a fire down the road, that we don't have to use fire hydrants, But then he also goes, oh, well, they also have sprinkler systems. That's good. So I would prefer, my answer would be yes, let's go and start working on it both ways, y'all.
I mean, I'm good with that. One thing that I would like to ask you, and I should have been here Thursday, I apologize, this is a quick question though. So Hornell, one of the things that was brought up in my conversations was that if they develop that as they're planning, they were gonna have to upgrade the water line, which would fix the sprinkler issue. So, because I think, and I may be wrong, you can correct me, I think it's a 2-inch line that goes down there now, and they're raising it up to maybe a 6. So, and that was kind of what the water authority was saying. I think she told me that. They were like, you know, if you did have a big development with like 60-pound homes, more than likely they're going to have to upgrade the water line anyway, so you're going to solve your sprinkler starving problem. So if they're correct, which I'm assuming they are for a bigger development, because I don't think smaller developments is going to matter. I think a 2-inch water line will be fine for, you know, but if it gets to be something massive, they're going to have to upgrade anyway. So I'm good with going forward if y'all want to.
Do we need a motion, Andrew, to go forward?
Just a motion on how you, and again, I would appreciate a motion with those parameters. Like, for example, from what I'm hearing, maybe shared wall, whether or not you want to do the tank, or just you have to have sufficient water pressure to do it. Really those two, and then we may come back to you with more questions on clarification, but it's kind of, that's a...
Wait a minute, that is kind of my motion, is I would make a motion that we pursue this, maybe start with Cheatham County and Pleasant View as a template, but also look at specifically starting just with shared wells only, and then requiring them, and if pressure is not available, look at requiring the tank as an option. That would be how I make that motion.
So you have a motion for everything Carl said, and to allow Jeff and Andrew to start looking at it and trying to draft something. Do we have a second?
I second it.
And we have a second. Are there any more questions on it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is passed.
Glad to hear that, because you're my hardest sell.
Next is our building permit report.
Madam Chair, no new building permits for February.
And next would be our police department report.
Calls for service, we had 379 calls this month, 168 traffic stops, of that 115 citations, 70 warnings, 29 arrests, 1 DUI, and 16 narcotic charges this past month.
Say 16 narcotics.
Yes, ma'am, 16.
Was our new drug dog involved with any of those?
She was, and she actually got a pound of mushrooms for Dixon County. Traffic stop.
What did we do with those?
Atta girl. You think mushroom pizza? Like, what are you talking about over there?
So that's up quite a bit from last month.
It is, it was up from 2 last month.
That's awesome.
I commend Officer Fair. She has, fresh out of the academy, and she's got that drive, and she's out here looking, and a lot of those are hers.
Awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
pat her on the back if y'all talk to her.
Definitely.
I haven't met her yet, I would love to.
She,
Huh? How about that? See, that's what it is.
old age.
When she was sworn in.
Question that I just have not done a great job following up on, I apologize. I know that for a minute we were looking for another officer. Where are we at with all that?
We have actually rehired an individual who's worked here in the past, Corey. He is probably prior to all of y'all, other than Stephanie and Mayor, to y'all. he has left and went to Greenbrier, and that was about 4 years ago.
Didn't realize White Bluff was better, huh?
Corey Tickle, he's actually from this area, he has family here. His parents live in Miles. So he is going to be sworn in Thursday at the planning meeting. He couldn't be here tonight, so he'll be here then. I've got to send him through a transition school. He's been out of law enforcement for over 3 years, so I'll send him to a 3-week transition school, which they're doing most of that online now, all but 4 days, so be glad to get him back. He'll fit in, he knows the roads, he knows the way we work, so. Never was a problem before. I hope he's not now. I do have one other thing I wanted to ask for you guys to consider. Jordan Street, I've been getting a lot of complaints about the traffic, about the stop sign, about them trying to figure out whose turn it is to go, which a lot of people believe it's a 3-way stop, or because of where the stop sign was sitting. I would like to make a recommendation to take under consideration of making Jordan Street a 1-way street. We looked at this years ago. It's not very many residents on that road, 5, maybe 4 or 5. But if we could make it run north from from Old Charlotte to Taylortown, it would eliminate, it's not a very wide road anyway, if anybody's familiar with it. It's very narrow, only one vehicle can fit through at a time anyway. It would eliminate the stop sign coming out this way, so the traffic wouldn't have to worry about fighting for their turn.
Is that right there at Bibbs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs to happen, that's a terrible,
Yes.
terrible street.
It is. It's more of an alley than
It's an alley,
anything,
yeah.
but like I said, I've been getting a lot of complaints lately. It seems like, more people moving in and they don't, they're new to the area and they don't understand why they can't get out.
How should we go about it?
This council has clean area authority over roads. Probably the simplest thing is to put it on the next work session, if y'all don't have opposition to that.
I think that would be good to put it on the next work session or discuss it at the next meeting. If I recall, the last time that this came up, it was the residents who lived on that street who did not want it to be 1-way, if I remember correctly, but it's been a long time, so.
I believe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I believe there was at least one that did not want it that way. But, for safety purposes, I think, we have to take that into consideration. We might have to outweigh and I don't know, they all may want it that way.
If they're not able to come out that way to exit, is Taylortown their next option?
Taylortown would be the closest, yes ma'am.
Okay.
They would just make the circle around Taylortown, and
Is there another route just over to Charlton Street?
they could go down to the foot of the hill and turn back onto Charlton Street.
Yeah.
Or, if they were going 47, of course, they could go out to School Road, Pleasant View. Sometimes hard to get people to change habits, but
I'm just thinking that Taylortown Road and Highway 70, that intersection has its own challenges. So, and like you said, it's not a lot of people, but I wouldn't want to make that intersection worse while trying to solve the Jordan Street issue.
then, I guess the second plan of action would be making a right-hand only turn, or, when you're coming out of Jordan, where they could not turn back to the left, they have to go one direction. Of course, they're not going to be happy about that.
Like that either.
Just for your consideration.
For what it's worth, the street department would support that as well, because, Jordan is hardly 2 lanes. 2 cars can get through it, but you get a school bus down there, it's been difficult over the years.
I was gonna tell you, front of everybody, so, I think it's Brent, it's been a while back, so I happened to be at Patty's, and he pulled every one of my peeps in the parking lot. I was like, let me go out here and see what's going on. So I go out there and I was talking to him, and he said, well, he's gonna have to come with me, because he had a warrant, it wasn't a major warrant, but it was a warrant. He didn't know he had it, and so, I just wanna say, he was very polite to my people. He didn't mistreat him whatsoever, and even my guy was like, I really appreciate him being like that, because he could have really been, hateful to me, and he wasn't at all. It's, and they got it corrected, it wasn't a huge deal, but he's like, he's gonna have to go with me, or you're gonna have to find somebody else to make pizza. Fair enough. So, but I just let him know that we do appreciate that, definitely.
I will. I think a lot of us have learned that it's much easier these days to talk someone into going than it is to fight them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a very good conversation considering what had happened. He was just in shock that he, had that. He thought it was taken care of. It was something that he, and it wasn't obviously. So, but so that worked out well.
I will pass that on to him. Thank you for saying so.
You're welcome.
So we're gonna add that to next month.
Just for cleanliness of the minutes, if somebody would make a motion and go through that process, it would be helpful.
I make a motion, we add Jordan Street to the next work session.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more questions about it? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's on next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fire department report.
Real quick, we had 71 calls last month. 51 of them were inside the city, 16 were outside the city, 4 were mutual aid, 6 were outside the city. 4 were public assistance inside the city, 40 were medical calls inside the city. 3 investigations and 2 MBAs. 16 outside the city, there were 13 of them were medical, and 3 were investigation. And then we have one mutual aid. We have 1 mutual aid for debris fire, and 1 mutual aid for public assist. It was 71 for the month, and total 145 for the year. Questions?
Thank you much.
Thank you. Court report.
Yes, ma'am. Total number of cases for February 1st through February 29th was 79. There were 4 criminal cases and 75 private cases.
Can I ask what driving on roadways lane for traffic is?
You can ask.
Good question, Chris.
I'm sorry, what was it?
The charge is driving on roadways laned for traffic.
Not driving in your lane.
Is that what it means?
That's the judge.
The attorney agrees.
And then the last one, vehicle registration and proper use. Is that improper use of a vehicle registration?
It could be vehicle registration, it covers a wide variety of, it could be expired tax, could be improper display. Without seeing a citation, I wouldn't know.
But that improper use covers a whole bunch of stuff. And, okay, all right, thank you.
Probably a cross tag would be, I took your tags off of one vehicle and put them on another one.
Who would do that?
Welcome to Tennessee.
Any more questions about the court report? Okay, there's nothing under streets and sidewalks, parks and recreation. Is there any old business other than what we discussed? Anything under new business?
Madam Chair, I do have an item, this is informational, I met met with Judge Smithson this afternoon. She submitted to me a letter availing herself of Section 24 of our charter, which allows her to step aside temporarily for inability to serve. We know her health has been an issue. We, of course, wish her all the best and to get well, but I know trying to figure out who's going to serve as judge has been stressful for her. Had conversations with her. Dixie spent a lot of time coordinating with her. One of the judges who helps us out, who's here tonight, it's been a really big team effort to keep our court system running. And so what this allows her to focus on her health, and she would have to send me a second letter to take her responsibilities back. It is kind of bookended by, we've got an election coming up, so it can't go on forever. She's got to make a final decision probably by the end of summer. But at least for the time being, it now falls to the city council to appoint a judge on a temporary basis. I don't know, we can't do it tonight under current state law. We might have to have a special called meeting just for that. I need to talk to the mayor and Jeff a little more. But I just wanted y'all to know that she's decided to avail herself of that, so she is no longer the judge effective today. And we'll need to replace that again on a temporary basis and figure out what direction we're going in heading into November.
What's the process to get, I don't even know how that works as far as candidates for the judge, for the temporary?
We will do like we've done before. The council will nominate individuals, and then we will voice vote on each until there's a majority. The qualifications are you have to be licensed to practice in the state of Tennessee and be in good standing, and you have to be a resident of Dixon County. So be thinking about who you might want to nominate, because candidly you might be doing it in about a week. So we got to figure out when we're going to have that meeting, and I'll talk to the mayor about when she's going to call it. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. I can't do that.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion, do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed that want to stay here? All right, we are adjourned.
Is it the only one?